Good morning. It is time for Coffee Talk, and I have some good news, at least for me. I finally have my internet back. I was doing the math in public, roughly 76 days since October 8th, give or take a day or two. Then on October 10th, the 8th I left. On the 10th, the hurricane hit, and I have not had proper internet other than a hotspot since then. Finally got it last night, so fantastic. We're going to do a proper, I'm just going to keep using that word today. That'll be my word of the day, proper. We're going to do a proper coffee talk where I'll do the kind of standard thing. It'll be really long and irritate people who don't like long videos. Tough. It's self-indulgent. It's what I'm doing today. It's not the day before Christmas. It's 2 days before Christmas. I'll do what I want to. So I went out to the truck last night. There was a truck wandering the neighborhood, the internet provider. And I've been accosting them for the last couple weeks, trying to just get information because they've been absolute rubbish at giving proper information. Proper. So I asked the guy, I'm like, hey, are you here to put taps in? Because that's apparently what we were missing. We had the line, we had the main line, we had the line to the house replaced, but the coax is just wrapped around the line. There's no tap. You learn these things when you're really worried about your internet, all the different things you have to have. Fortunately, my stuff wasn't ripped off the side of the house like so many others were. And it appears to work, so that was a good thing. Anyway, I cost him, what are you doing? We're putting a tap. Great, cool. And he goes, and it's funny what you learn offhand from the worker guys because they just let stuff slip. Actually, that's apropos for what we're going to talk about today on things that are coming to World of Tanks next year. In any event, he says something offhand like, well, they were here in your neighborhood last night, but somehow they missed your street. That is exactly what has happened. Encapsulated in 2 months. It's just thing after thing like that. Man. Anyway, coffee talk. Here we are. Enough of my whining. Hopefully I don't whine about that anymore. All right, here we go. Stream and channel stuff. We'll talk about that. We'll go over the missions and specials. We'll talk about the subject du jour, which will be what's coming in 2019. World of Tanks. I have a couple thoughts on that. And then we'll wrap her up and I will send this out and I'll actually be able to upload it in a proper manner. Let's get started. I pretty much gave all the stream and channel news. Hopefully I'll get the stream going here pretty soon. You can see that I've got the 5/1 rack. I actually put one of the Christmas camos on it, and because this model has a pretty subdued paint job on it, it actually looks kind of cool on this tank. Not bad at all, but what I've really been doing for the most part is driving the Panhard, which is a French wheeled vehicle. You've probably seen some stuff about that. I put out a video, maybe 2 at this point. I played 30 games, did really poorly. I did rubbish. I did not play it like a proper light tank. And then I decided, you know what? Let's put a crew in it that actually knows what they're doing, because I was trying to train a crew at Tier 8. In a new tank that I didn't really know how to drive. And that's important with this tank because its driving mechanics are different than every other tank in the game. Kind of similar to learning how to run a stirve with the hydraulic stuff, when to go into siege mode, when to come out, when to go into fast mode on the EBR, when to come out, how it actually maneuvers in tight spaces. Turns out also, interestingly, that my phone hotspot, I told you we wouldn't whine about it. I'm just giving you info. I'm not really whining. Well, maybe I am. Whatever. The phone hotspot, while it showed a pretty good ping, was still having quite a bit of packet loss because when I would turn it, it seemed really sluggish. Well, now that I got the good internet back, proper is the other word we're going to use today, it actually responds pretty well. So that was an interesting revelation to me. So I went back at it and started working on it with a better crew. And so it was the return of Panhard, Pan harder. See what I did there? And I did all right. So we just take a look at this. I got a lot better at this tank. Got to 56% at 89 battles. Brought my damage from 500 Up to 880. Still not amazing for a tier 8 light. All my other tier 8 lights are a lot better than that for the most part. I mean, even 90s at 1200, for goodness sake. But put myself in a big hole at 30 battles with only 500. So I was able to bring all that up. And interesting, the assistance was about the same. So this is a strange tank. It is probably not the final iteration. It might be. We'll see what happens with Wargaming on what they get from all this information. Because what they did is they gave it to the CCs, and we had 15 codes, which I ended up giving out. You probably tracked a lot of that stuff. I gave 15 of those out in various ways. Give a couple out in game to just random people, like, hey, whoever gets top experience gets the Panhard code. I gave one out on Reddit. I gave one out on the official forums for giving good advice. The Reddit one was, I asked what was the one thing you wish you'd learned earlier. On the forums, it was, what's the one thing, your best piece of advice. So I'm going to actually do videos on those things. I just dropped one from an ask earlier in the year. I don't know, probably a month ago, maybe 2 at this point. I don't remember. Made quite a long video responding to you guys, and it was on for the YouTube channel. So now we'll have hit all 3, the YouTube channel, the official forum, and Reddit. And I will go ahead and do 2 more videos on the Reddit stuff and then on the official forum, just trying to help out the new guys. That is pretty much all of the stream and channel news right there. I'm going to take this, I will take this to 100 battles and see where we sit after 11 more. That should be sufficient for learning it. I don't know when they're going to turn it off or take it back from us or delete it. I'm not sure how that's going to go down. Whether this is permanent for the CCs and they'll just change the characteristics, I couldn't tell you. I do know the rentals, I believe the rentals are for 7 days, and my assumption is from the day you use it. So hopefully you've put it in there and you've got a good Christmas vacay raging around in your Panhard. That's pretty much for the stream and channel news. Let's move on to the missions and specials. Time to shill. Time to shill. French dark roast today. French dark roast. Really good. Still out of a Keurig, so I got it. Not really purist. That's not coffee purist. It's hard to claim you're a big coffee purist or expert when you're running the Keurig all the time, but it's just so easy, man. I can make a cup and then I can make another cup, and I don't have to French press, and I don't have to percolate, and all the other various ways, the Italian way and the, I don't know, however many ways there are to make coffee. I like them all. I just want to press the button and get a coffee, man. But I don't want it to suck. So I mean, I realize that these are 2 conflicting problems that I have, and neither one is really well answered by the Keurig, but it's a good middle of the road. The Keurig's got it sorted out for okay-ish coffee, fast. Anyway, I put the hazelnut stuff all in there, so I'm just drinking hazelnut with a little coffee flavor. Really, I could just use instant, it would be just fine, wouldn't it? The horror. Okay, let's shill. Time to shill. Man, buy some boxes. These are just simply the best deal going. They really are. It is possible. Well, it's possible for all these. It is not even probable, really, but I don't even know what I'm trying to say. If you buy 3 boxes, it's possible, let's just leave it at that you're only going to get 750 gold and not much else, which is not a great deal at $5.99. Once you get to the 11, especially at the 25 and 75, it is possible, but highly improbable, that you're going to get less or even on your money's worth. You're going to get well more. And you can see the box's price go down to 75. I actually bought one 75 box for myself, and Wargaming gave me 150 to do that unboxing video, which I showed you guys, just to give you an idea of the things that drop. And it is a great deal, man. I mean, it's $100, so if you can't afford $100, it's not a great deal. But in the context of the game and what you get out of it, the 11 boxes, the 3 boxes are kind of a roll of the dice a little bit. I know I've come down on the whole it's not gambling thing. You could get slightly less than your money's worth, but that's improbable. So I will admit that could happen on that. But once you get to 11, 25, and especially at 25 and 75, it just really is a great deal. What else is going on specials-wise? That's enough shilling for Wargaming. Centurion's out. The rack is today's advent calendar, which guess what you can do with all that gold that you get. It's a little late now because there's only 2 tanks left on the calendar, but you can buy those calendar tanks for gold, which is a great deal, man, because I got all that extra gold out of the boxes, and I've been snapping up all these premiums that I haven't had. And I really kind of wanted the Centurion 5.1 because I just played it. It's a great tier 8 premium. That nice turret, decent mobility, actually pretty good whole armor, and a punchy, not punchy, but a fast firing gun with a lot of penetration. So that was pretty cool. The AMX M4 is out there as well. I wouldn't bother buying gold right now. I would do it through the boxes. It just would be silly to do gold. Premium account, get some premium stuff out of the boxes. I don't think there's a discount. A lot of years there's, you know, a discount on 360 days, which they have not done right here. So I don't recommend that. The other vehicles that they have out that you might be interested in, the Liberté, but it was just on the Advent. The VC Firefly, I sort of covet that a little bit, but I don't want to spend all that money for it. With only one day on the Advent, I don't think it's the next Advent. I can't remember what the next one is. I know maybe it is the VC. I'm not sure. Maybe it could be. There was some SA out there that I read that said the Centurion 5.1 and some other British tank, but I don't remember. The Alpine Tiger, I don't really recommend that. The Sentinel, and then we get down into the standard stuff. So really, the specials and things that are going on right now are some decent deals like on the 5.1 and the VC Firefly, and then just Boxapalooza. It's all about the box. The box. I'm not singing it. That's really all I got to say about that. Let's take a look at the missions. So the missions are this New Year bustle thing. The main one, to get the boxes to decorate your festive atmosphere, your festive level. These are the in-game boxes that are the small boxes, and there's the premium boxes that you pay for that are gambling and all that good stuff. So an interesting thing about that to me, I think it would have been a great idea for Wargaming to put some lower tier premiums and other things like a little bit of gold in their regular boxes. It doesn't have to be a high drop rate, but just every once in a while, getting something cool other than just kits and all that. I mean, that's fine. That's all good stuff. It's free. I got it. But a reserve or a tier 5 or even one of those tier 2 premiums or something like that. Now that's maybe a little problematic for them because if the guy has the tank, then he gets gold. That's fine. You could put a rule in there as long as you advertise and say, hey, in these boxes, if you have the gold tank, then we're going to give you the silver equivalent. I mean, that's fine as long as it's advertised and everybody understands what's happening. But I think they'd have made a lot of money with that because it really gets into the angst from everybody's the haves and the have-nots, and you're paying for this and blah blah blah. And I don't know. I think that would have made them a lot of money. Now I'm not saying the deals they're doing aren't good. They are. Could be a little bit better. A lot of ways to do it. These are just the ones you get for the in-game boxes and stuff. So open all those boxes, get your freebies out of that, do your festive atmosphere. The Krangagwagen. Somebody will correct me down there. Hey, we're getting kind of international. I'm getting a lot of guys from Europe and a few from over in Asia and stuff. So welcome aboard. I do appreciate you guys coming on. If anyone knows how to pronounce that, go ahead and let me know. I should just go type it in and see what Google has to say about it. In fact, they might actually. Okay, tournament missions. Those are for you guys doing tournaments. That's actually a pretty cool idea. I do like that. Tank masteries, standard. Get your little master symbol for the side of your tank. Supply raid, these are usually on just about every weekend. It's nice to get just kits and other things thrown in there, so that works out really nicely. Oh, there's a tier 8 to 10 challenge. Top 10 by the following parameter. Experience earned. Nice. All right, so that's a good one. Get out there and get those kits. Those are large kits too, so that's pretty fantastic. Battle of the Bulge. Somewhere in the past, you had to have picked Alliance or Axis, and I think it had to do with the first tank that you played. I'm not really sure, but in any event, I finished the Ardennes counteroffensive. That gave me 6 American flags, and then these were 24-hour. Each day you could do one of these 2 things, and this goes to January 1st, so there's another, week or so left of this. And you're getting kits out of it. 3 large kits, that's a good deal, once a day. So make sure you're knocking those out. This one cracks me up. This is great because it's Battle of the Bulge, and the Americans basically just wanted to hold on. It's win a battle and survive. You gotta live. You gotta live. Then win a battle, kill 2 enemy vehicles, and you trip that one. You get what, 1, 0 of 1, so 1 every 24 hours. That kind of stuff just happens. Sometimes you need to dig around here and look at it and see what it is you have to do. if it's a fairly specific thing, but a lot of times these things just happen as you play. Play your tank class right. This has been going on for a long time. I actually like this quite a bit. This is a great way to help people grind with this little extra bonus at the end of it when you get to the 401. Where it's still mixed up though. This drives me crazy. Should I go off at a tangent about their UI design and the organization of these cards? This is insane. But anyway, when you get to the end of it, when you do say tank 401, which is the 4th in the series, then you get that 10,000 experience and it goes to the tank. Remember, the tank that you played when you tripped that one. So make sure it's the one you want the 10,000 experience to go to. And then the other missions, hunt the sheriff and all that good stuff. I haven't done any sheriff stuff lately. I need to go do that. And that is pretty much the missions. One thing I do want to show you guys here. I did not know this. Check this out. Come over here. Go to this little gift thing. That'll take you or let you know if you have any of those free crew members. And when you go to the barracks, it'll come up and you look right here. It says recruits. Now these are the special ones. This happens to be the holiday ones. But also, if you're doing the missions, the campaigns where you get the female crew. Still driving me crazy that female crew are prizes. I don't really understand that, but whatever. They're good because they have typically have free brothers in arms, depending on which one they are. Some are better than others, yada yada. In any event, that little button right there will sort them out and just show you which ones of those you have left. Remember, it was kind of a wonky way that you had to recruit them in the past, but they put it into the UI. So if you didn't know that, that's their pretty good thing. These are the boxes, and that's that. Let's move on. All right, I had to go get another cup. It's a 2 coffee cup CoffeeTalk. 2 coffee cup CoffeeTalk. A proper coffee cup. Nice and warm because the last few sips were cold. So, stinks in my house a little bit right now because we have a paper mill nearby. And occasionally we used to get the smell of it. The prevailing winds are usually away, so it's not a big problem. Once in a while we would smell it here where I live. Now we smell it a lot. We smell it a lot. And it's because I believe that we have lost so many trees that in the past, a little bit of breeze, sometimes, the trees would help keep it from filtering through quite as much. But man, we get it a lot now, a lot stronger. Another effect of losing all those trees. Anyway, enough of that. Here we go. What do we got? What's coming in 2019? So, premium ammo rebalancing, folks. Premium ammo is going to be rebalanced. Been a long time coming. I have said this over and over, and I'm sure most of you who've been around have heard it, that the major problem on balance with premium ammo and regular ammo is that wargaming is attempting to balance armor to ammo on 2 wildly different pen values. So the question is, do you balance it for regular ammo, and then premium is just a massive bonus, or do you balance for premium ammo, and of course then standard ammo is a major negative, or do you try to split the difference right in the middle? I think they've been more or less attempting to split the difference down the middle. Not necessarily on all tanks, but as long as you've got these 2 wildly different pen values, you're going to have a very difficult time balancing whatever that is. Let's diverge a little bit on the whole balancing. It's largely a myth. What you're attempting to do is make sure you don't have too many Object 268 V4s running around your game. Ideally none, but that's the obvious example. And then we've got all the different levels of OP and imbalance and other things that are going on in the game. You try to keep that within a certain amount of, call it distance, whatever you want to say, to where it's not really bad or really good, depending on what side of the fence you're sitting on there. You're always going to have some tanks that are a little bit stronger than others. It's just the way it is. And it has a lot to do with what the players want and how the players play your game. Your intentions as a developer are fine. You got to have a plan. You should have some intentions or ideas of how the game should be played. But as soon as your game meets the enemy, the player, they get a vote. And that's something I think developers fail to understand time and time again, is that the player's vote affects how your game is being developed because of the way they play the game. You have to react to it. Now, you can take an adversarial approach and give them the old heave-ho and do what you want. And games have done that before, and they've failed because players walked away. Or you can kowtow to the players too much, and then your game just becomes this vacillating back and forth, trying to placate different player groups. Games have failed for that same thing as well. So there's a happy medium. You're trying to get into the middle there. But what I see, at least in my opinion, from wargaming a lot of times is ignoring how the game is played, and I say it a lot, they don't know how the game is played. That's kind of a throwaway term, and it's probably not fair. They do know how their game is played. They have a lot of good players that play the game. But the largest amount of very good players who understand how the game is played are not wargaming employees. Now, the counter to that is, well, Guido, you don't develop a game for the Unicums. If you develop a game for the Unicums, everyone else would walk away. Okay, fair enough. But the insights from good players on how the game is played and what the meta is pretty important. So, what am I trying to say right here? The player gets a vote. So it becomes interesting then when wargaming talks about these things, which is why I laid all that groundwork out here, because this verbiage in here just kind of blew my mind. So this is typical large company right here. This is what large companies do when they attempt to reorganize things. They throw the baby out with the bathwater and they attempt to redo everything. And then they like to invent new terms. They like to come up with a new narrative. All that business 101 crap that you see. Sometimes it works. A lot of times it just irritates everybody, to include your employees. This is great. Okay, earlier this year we took the first step toward rebalancing premium ammo by removing the feature of purchasing ammo and consumables for gold. Therefore, the terms. Therefore, right? Declarative. This will be and shall ever be forward. The terms premium ammo and gold ammo are no longer appropriate. Let's call them collectively special ammo. Let's not. How about no? Now, I understand why companies do this and organizations where they attempt to reorganize. Sometimes they want to go in a new direction. You'll coin a new phrase. You'll come up with a new term, whatever the case may be. Everyone sees through it. Who cares? It's premium ammo, guys. It really is. You guys could call it special ammo in your meetings all day long. You can send out a memo to everybody in the company and say, this shall forevermore be special ammo. Thou shalt not say premium. The players don't care. And it's not a big deal. I mean, I'm not busting your round objects much. But it's just a worrying about that and then attempting to wrap that into what you're doing was just a waste of time for everybody. Nobody's going to call it special ammo, and nobody cares what you call it. It's already called premium. It doesn't do anything. Okay, so we've been waiting for the amount of special ammo in World of Tanks to decrease. Okay, and for players to adjust to the new concept. Okay, just to be clear, let's start off with the key reasons for rebalancing. This is fantastic because we're going to be clear. This is going to be clear because when I read it, I'm not very clear on what you think is going on here. First of all, my understanding is, and though they don't say it here, is there was still a lot of gold. They can track all this stuff. They know how much stuff has been purchased for actual money, yada, yada. There was some kind of information out there, apparently, that X number of gold rounds were bought for money. So, say somebody had spent $300 and they bought gold rounds back when you could buy it with money. Whether that included gold rounds where they bought gold and then paid gold for it, that I don't know. That's internal to their calculations. The point being that if they nerf something you've paid money for, then there's the legal stuff going on, depending on what country, and it's an international company, and they got to worry about all these various ridiculous laws going on. So I totally get that. So at some point they've done due diligence, and in theory, the gold ammo that was bought for money, however they calculated that, is gone. The assumption that's the first in, first out kind of idea, right? So now they can go, here's the data. If someone tries to sue them, all of the gold left in the game, or X percentage of it, is now stuff bought for silver. All right, fair enough. Got it. So they've been waiting for it to decrease. So that's a little bit, it's a strange way to say it. Some of this can be problems in interpretation from the Russian or whatever it was written in. I don't know. Obviously, the amount of special ammo, premium ammo. See, they got me. I'm calling it special now. It quotes special ammo. It has not decreased. The fact is, it's increased. But in the context of what they're talking about, it's decreased. Does that make sense? People are using premium ammo like crazy. Okay. Because the player gets a vote. You're right. The player gets a vote. All right. Here's the key reasoning. This is great. All right. Players choose their ammunition based on what's happening on the battlefield. Okay, sort of. Players choose their ammunition based on wanting to pen someone. I mean, yeah, that's what's happening on the battlefield, but there you go. I have a gun, and it has two kinds of ammo. But we won't talk about HE. Let's just leave that out for a minute. But even gold HE or premium HE is still the same thing for the damage, right? If I get extra damage or pen or both. I have a gun with two wildly different pen values. And if I don't care about the money, I'm probably dabbing two most of the day. Right? When I say the money, I mean the silver. So I've got a premium account. I'm Guido. I can play well. I got lots of premium time. I have lots of reserves. I can do specials like we have here. I'm already up to 50%. I can generate a bunch of silver, and I can dab two, and I don't care. I don't care. I mean, I don't have this weird premium ammo orthodoxy where you're not skilled if you shoot premium, or you don't need premium, or you shouldn't be shooting so much premium. I don't care. It's a better round. I'm probably going to use it. There are other considerations. Firing heat into tracks or angled armor, yada yada. Lots of things to, lots of other little things to start talking about right there. But it doesn't have to do so much to do with what's happening on the battlefield. It's just two is better, right? So I got one, and then two is better. So I'm pushing two. The battlefield be damned. Now, if I roll up on a mouse and I've been shooting regular for some reason, I got a high pen gun, and then I need it, okay, that's something that's happening on the battlefield. But that is, it's better, let me get it, it's better, or something's happening on the battlefield. That's the relative importance. Okay, we all know these shells are almost always guaranteed to cause damage. Okay. Fair enough. That's kind of the thing that we're talking about. That's why people don't like them, because I have a heavily armored tank, and a tank that should struggle to hit me or needs to go after weak spots can go two, because it's better, and right through my armor. Okay. Let's see where we are. But this damage is usually much less than the damage dealt with standard shields. Oh, I'm sorry. We're on to HE. That's right. I'm sorry. I forgot. This is HE. I got a little ahead of myself right there. This was a fantastic... This is, the whole paragraph is talking about HE. Key reasonings for the rebalance of premium ammo. The first thing they bring up is HE. Because HE is always guaranteed to cause damage, not necessarily. Lower caliber HE guns will often do nothing against heavy armor, or if they hit the gun mantlet, even large caliber hitting gun mantlets will sometimes do nothing. Pros and cons of these shells are clear to everyone. Therefore, it's obvious that constantly using HE shells while you have standard shells is simply ineffective. So, I don't have any idea whatsoever why that would be the first thing. They started off okay with players choose their ammunition based on what's happening on the battlefield. Then they transition to the HE, and that's, I think what they're trying to get at is, hey, if you're having trouble penning with the regular ammo, one of your options is HE, and here's the mechanics, and that's why we need to change special ammo. And then you lost me at that point. Using HE while you have standard shells is simply ineffective. So that's kind of, I think, what they're getting at. All right, so you're running around. The assumption is I run standard shells and I run into something I can't deal with, so I have two choices, three, at least that's how mine's mech'd. HE, which is largely ineffective, or Special ammo. Okay, when a player has to choose between standard shells and special ammo, they focus only on armor penetration. Okay, yes, right. Types, that's true. Types of ammunition differ in characteristics, shell velocity for instance, but the key factor for most players is still armor penetration. Using special ammo, most notably APCR and heat, you get an advantage just by spending more credits. True. That's the current situation. Oh, by the way, they didn't mention the whole HE thing on some tanks where you get more damage out of a gold HE shell. I'm assuming that's included, but they didn't mention it, did they? What do we want to do? Our top priority is to help players choose their ammunition loadout more consciously. We want players to evaluate the advantages of different shells and factor in the consequences. Do you really think we're not doing that right now? Wow. It's extremely important the new system, first of all, suits you, our players. That's why we decided to try the solution you actively offered based on forum feedback. All right, so this has been, what they are offering here, has been something that's been on the forums, and I'm not a huge fan of it. But here's what's going to happen. AP shells most attractive in terms of price and damage. So what they're going to do is this big red thing. Reduce damage output of premium shells by 25 to 30%, depending on the average damage of the shell. The more damage it does, the closer I'm assuming to 30%. The less damage, the closer to 25%. Less damage with a shot. Plus the RNG factor thrown on top. The percentage of damage reduction will depend on the amount of damage per shot. So what you're going to do here is you're going to hit 2 and you're going to have a better pen value. The same or worse or better, I don't know. And you're going to do less damage. So think about that. You're fighting that type 5 with all those hit points and armor. And in order to pen him, you have to hit 2. But you're going to do less damage. Which means it's going to take longer to get rid of him, which means he's going to get more gold HE blaps in your face. Maybe they're going to reduce the gold HE damage too. I don't know. I have to assume so. But how would you do that though? Because it's about penetration to... I don't know what they're going to do with the gold HE. Just remove it? Reduce the damage overall? Why would you fire it then if you reduce the damage? I don't know if it has a little extra pen or not. That's a good question. See, that's one question. All right. Most attractive special ammo is good for firing on armored vehicles because of a higher chance to penetrate, but have lower DPM. But they have a high cost and lower damage. Right, that's what you said, lower DPM than the standard shells. High explosive shells make it possible to inflict damage with a greater probability regardless of whether the vehicle is armored or not. They are effective against poorly armored vehicles and have low armor penetration, cannot pierce obstacles, have the lowest damage per shot in case of non-penetration, and often the lowest velocity. Again, no mention of the premium HE right there. So what's next? We've put a lot of work into these improvements, and we are excited to get your feedback. Good, that's fantastic. Your input is crucial, got it. And okay, so props here. They are actively looking for information. I would say that the live server test of the Panhard was one of the first great examples of them going, all right, players, break this, figure it out. Here's to help us test this thing. I'm going to go off on a slight tangent here. Nobody likes games that are put out in an unfinished state so the players can test it and the dev can fix it. But in this case, you have a 10-year-old mature game where change an already very established meta, and a lot of fans of the game are playing the game. So just throwing stuff out there without testing it is not a great idea. So I have a great appreciation for putting a limited number of Panhards into the live server and getting actual data on how the players are going to play these tanks. I tried to give mine to a wide assortment of skill levels and people as far as experience or capability. So hopefully they get some good data out of the EBR. So let's go back to this. Good. Let's do some testing and figure this thing out. I like it. We are well aware these changes will significantly affect some tanks. Don't worry, all vehicles will be evaluated. Okay, good. And that's what I was talking about earlier, saying, hey, what about a Type 5 or a Mouse or these kind of things that you're trying to pen? It's a problem. There are second and third order effects to changing something like this. This has been an established piece of the meta dabbing to and getting the same DPM for a very long time. So when you change it, certainly some things are going to change. It may make some tanks more popular, other tanks less popular. So, oh, Matchmaker, we'll get to that in a minute. Matchmaker's next. All right, I said I don't like it very much, and I don't. My issue with premium ammo, and I think it's the game's issue with premium ammo, is what I started with at the beginning. There's two wildly different pen values. It sounds like they're going to leave the wildly different pen values, so it's still lull pen, but it's just a little bit less damage. Now, I don't know if that is a great plan. I think it's going to have second and third order effects that they're not going to be able to guess at until they actually put it in. Any changes of premium ammo is probably going to do that. In my opinion, what you do is how you handle the rest of your game. One of the core constructs of this game is that bonuses and negatives are relatively small, minus RNG, which is a pretty wild swing at plus or minus 25. A different subject, I would lower that too, but let's just stick with the other things like crew bonuses, the equipment bonuses are all relatively small numbers. We're talking tenths of seconds bonuses, maybe a second bonus, this kind of thing. Very small, although they become important over large sample sizes, kind of how this game is developed. Plus the idea that everyone lives within about 48 to 58% win rate just shows that everything is relatively well balanced and even in there. The RNG plays its part. So my suggestion would have been to take those wildly different pen values and close them in. To make the premium less attractive in pen and leave the damage. Now you would have to do a little bit of wickering with the armor, and we players, Wargaming, have kind of maneuvered ourselves into this armor corner where some of the armored tanks have had buffs to their armor to survive number 2. So if you're going to lower the pen on some of these premium rounds, which would be my suggestion, bring them closer in to the standard rounds penetration, a bonus but not such a ridiculous bonus in a lot of cases, some of those heavily armored tanks would have to have their armor adjusted. My suggestion would be better or weaker weak spots so that aiming was something you had to do. Which, you know, Chrysler K, the Maus buffs and then debuffs and some of the other things that are going on with the heavily armored tanks, the VK4502 Bravo and its near impenetrable front, all that kind of good stuff, were all answers to a very high premium round, gold round pen to make them more survivable as an armored tank. They would probably, again, have to have some weak spots, lower plates, things adjusted a little bit, but they're already going to adjust. So they've made that conscious decision that we're going to lower the damage, and we know we're going to have to adjust some things on a tank per tank basis. So if they're already willing to do that, why have these wildly different pen values where it's so difficult to choose balance for premium, balance for standard, or try to split the difference? None of which works really well. If you bring the premium and standard pen closer together to where it's not as obvious of an advantage, then it would be easier to kind of adjust the armor to something that would work for both. That is my opinion. Matchmaker. Okay. All right. But know how I talked about the cable guy and how he sort of let out something that lifts the veil on what's going on behind the curtain back there a little bit. And you kind of go, oh, okay, I see what happened there. You missed my road. You missed my road. Copy. Thanks for the day late. The Matchmaker's main objective has always been getting players into battle as quickly as possible. Ever since 2010, the various versions have valued speed as the top priority. I don't know if that's necessarily true. I don't know why they would say that if it wasn't true, so maybe it is true, but have we just come to the one of the core problems with their Matchmaker design? The main priority was to get people into battle fast? I mean, that's certainly part of it. If I was picking a main priority, it would be to make kind of a even match or something. That one just made me go, all right, I'm missing something, or they didn't mean to say that, or my goodness, are you kidding me? So then they list some problems that they had, challenges with Matchmaker. Look, man, I got it. Get games fast? Yes, fantastic. But how about we prioritize good games fast? We could probably have both. I'm just saying we could probably have both. All right. So-called fail platoons, which consist of vehicles that differ by more than 3 tiers. So much like the discussion up here about premium ammo, here's the things they listed as their major challenges. Those have been gone for a year, 2 years. When did that? I don't know. Remember that, where you could platoon a tier 1 and a tier 10 and bring them into, remember? And apparently that was a key challenge, as opposed to going, hey, when someone has queued up a tier 10, you simply cannot load in anything but a tier 10 or a 9. I'm okay with a 1-tier spread, but how was that a key challenge? So that's the first one they put. All right, number 2, a large number of SPGs in teams up to 8. Okay, again, that's not a matchmaker key challenge. That's a challenge of the game and why SPGs were popular, because they were whack-a-mole with 0 threat to the player who's playing them, and could one-shot people, and you would laugh, and it was funny. And you didn't have to have a whole lot of skill to sit on the red line and whack people. That's not a matchmaker problem. That's a game design problem. And you can pretty much put something in your matchmaker that says only 3 per team. That does not seem like a key challenge to me. There's maybe a technical problem I don't see. I'm not the programmer, but those have been fixed, and they don't seem like the main complaints that people had. They were complaints, but what was the main complaint? What was the main complaint? What has always been the main complaint about Matchmaker? Teams were getting matched in such a way there were very few opponents of your tier in battle. For instance, there could be 13 tier 10s, but only 2 tier 8s. Getting closer. You're getting warmer, man. Keep moving in that direction. You're getting warmer. That was a byproduct of what the actual problem was. The actual problem was the games weren't even. These were parts of it. But the old matchmaker, if you remember, if you've been around that long, the problems with the old matchmaker is you would get 6 tier 10s on one team and 2 or 3 on another, because they had a weighting system for various tanks where some tier 9 tanks, based on whatever the math is and the formulas they had, were weighted very close to a tier 10, if not better than a tier 10, or often then they would take a spot in the roster, but when it kicked out, you'd have 6 tier 10s on one side and 3 on the other. And then the guys who had 3 would have a couple extra tier 9s sometimes, not always. And that whole weighting system, you added all those weights up, and they were even weights-ish. But it was terrible because it didn't take into account anything other than weights, what kind of map it was, whether there was a benefit of having heavies or lights or mediums on that map, all the other things that come into it. The other part of it, there was 2 main problems. That was one. Number 2 was, oftentimes, let's say you got an even 3, let's say 4 tier 10s against 4 tier 10s. One side would have 4 heavies, and the other side would have 2 mediums and 2 TDs. There was no sorting or matching of types, and you would get these wild hit point disparities, where one team was just stacked with heavies with 10,000 hit points, and the other team had 6,500 hit points, a bunch of TDs, and you're on a city map, as an example. So it wasn't fail platoons causing the matchmaker to be a problem. It wasn't too many SPGs, although that was painful. And it wasn't really that you didn't have enough guys to fight. It's whether or not your team was stacked or not stacked, depending on what the other team had sent out. That was the actual problem. In a lot of cases, for example, you had the 6 tier 10s on one side and a 3 on the other. The game would have been infinitely more fair if they'd just slid 1 tier 10 over and it was 5 and 4. And maybe do that with the 9s and the 8s. And who cares if you had 2 8s on one team? That happened. And if you're the 8, you might care, but it was not very often. I mean, I played lots of games where, I played some games where I was the only tier 8 on the board. If I was in a scout, it was fantastic. I loved it. It's exactly what I wanted. But if you're in a tier 8 heavy, you're stock and you're a new guy, and you got a whole roll of 9s and 10s, that's a bummer. It is. But that doesn't necessarily make the game match unfair. If everything else is equal and the 2 8s are even and everything else is roughly within, 4 10s and 10 9s and 1 8 on each side, then that's about as fair without taking skill into it, provided that the classes are close as you're going to get. Right? You might feel like it's unfair as the tier 8 guy, but that doesn't inherently make the match unfair. It just feels unfair to you as a tier 8 guy. Now, I'm not saying let's go to where you can be the only tier 8 guy in a 9 and 10 battle. You can set your matchmaker to not let that happen with a combination of this kind of template idea that they eventually came up with, and the idea that you need to have roughly even kinds of tanks. I'm not saying heavy, heavy, medium, medium, light, light. That's not the point. But you don't want these wild disparities of an open map with 10 mediums on one side and on the other 8 mediums and 2 TD, or 8 heavies and 2 TDs. It needs to be roughly similar in classes without making it just cookie cutter X number on each team. So then we went to the template thing, and everyone knows what the issues with the template thing are, because you're bottom tier all the time. Still doesn't really take much into account as far as tank classes, other than dealing with lights. I believe have to be even. There can only be three arties on one side. There have to be an even amount of lights and all that kind of stuff. So really, I think again, it's the baby with the bathwater. They took a pretty good matchmaker. It was actually pretty good. It just needed a few more sorting mechanisms to stop with the wild disparity games, and you'd have been just fine. But they threw that out, and they threw a hard-coded template on it, and then they come to find out that, oh, everybody's bottom tier on tier 6 and 8. That's a bummer, and that's what we started complaining about. I don't know, man. So anyway, this may actually work, so we'll see what happens, but they're going to expand the template out a little bit, which is going to end up making some of the games look a little closer to what they were in the past. But I'm not sure what the sorting mech for the different classes is going to be, if anything. So whether it really makes the games more fair or not, or just seem fair because you're not facing so many top tiers all the time in your tier 8. I'm not really sure how this opens it up. I know that 4 Tankers and a Dog did an analysis on this and did the maths. I think this is close to what he was talking about. 5-5-5 seems to be one of the more even as far as over time things, where you're going to end up in one of those slots and not always be bottom tier all the time. We'll see. Your feedback equals our success, so that's good. All right, we'll get through this fast. Frontline is coming back with some changes. They're going to rebalance. I'm not... I think these are in relation to the special ammo. They've got listed what they want to rebalance already, but they haven't really done the special premium ammo thing yet. So I keep calling it special ammo. They got me. So that's maybe a little bit of the cart before the horse, or maybe they're just saying, look, these are the first ones we want to do after we get data. I'm not really sure what's going on with that, but it does bring up a good point. The Leopard and the STB, we're going to rebalance premium ammo. But the Leopard and the STB don't care other than what they shoot. They get penned by everything anyway. The Leopard and the STB are not going to bounce any regular shells really at tier. Maybe some lower ones or with some angling. But that's always in play. That's always in play, whether it's premium or not. So really the Leopard and STB are getting their DPM versus armored targets nerfed. Right? The lighter skinned tanks, none of this less damage is going to help them unless the person forgets and they're still dabbing 2 because they just engaged the mouse and then they turn to shoot your STB. Okay, great, you're going to take a little less damage. But as a meta idea, as a general gameplay idea, the Leopard and STB don't benefit from this necessarily. Right? In fact, they get nerfed a little bit trying to take on heavily armored tanks. So I think that's one of the second or third order effects that we'll have to see how that works. Got some new vehicles coming out, maybe a new nation and some Swedish medium tanks with the hydraulic thing going on. So I'm not really sure how that's going to work. That could be interesting. New game mechanics. I think they're referring, at least in one case, to the double cannon on the ST1 they're trying to do. Ranked battles are going to have kind of a qualification thing and then move on to other higher levels. I'm not going to get into that too much. Bond shops. Pretty cool, I guess. I came out when bonds came out and said, why bonds? Who cares? I'm kind of still there. I wish they wouldn't add another economy thing. I cringe when game companies try to create economies, try to push how the economy is going to. The economy is the economy, fellas. The players make that. Now, you've created bonds, so people want those because they can get things for it. That's the part of the economy you've created. But exactly how that works is up to the players to a large extent. However, all that being said, they are going to sell some tanks in the bond shop. Pretty cool. I'd really love to get to some of those Clan Wars tanks with enough bonds. You could make them at a ridiculous astronomical amount, but still make them achievable by people. That would be cool. Premium account's going to change a little bit. So the point in here was something about, hey, it's an 8-year-old current version of premium account. You can basically get a premium account for X hours by running your reserves, in some cases better than a premium account, although with a premium account and those on top, it's even more better. However, they're going to give some more bonuses for having a premium account, so we'll see how that works out. Should be cool. Economics and convenience. Convenience is probably an important one right there. And then we got the custom styles and stuff coming out, which should be cool. And that means the 3D ability to customize your tank. All right, that was a long bit on all of that. Things coming up in 2019. Let's move on. Okay, well, that is it. My rambling response to what's coming up. You know, we'll see how it works. At the end of the day, they're going to give it a try, so I do appreciate that. I'm not scoffing necessarily any of it. Some of the way they presented it, I am kind of scoffing because it's a little bit silly. But, hey, they're working on it. So let's see what happens. Give them the benefit of the doubt until the stuff comes out. Matchmaker is Matchmaker. It's okay-ish, I guess. I'm not too worried about that. A few adjustments is fine. I am quite a bit more worried about the rebalance of premium ammo and decreasing damage. I really don't. I'm not seeing that as an effective means to do it, but we'll see. I'd much rather see it, what I was talking about, close in the difference between the penetration values and use more of the mantra of this game that, you know, bonuses are small things worth something over large sample sizes, but we'll see how that goes. I am doing replays again, so send in any of the content you got. Good game, bad game, funny game, something you want me to look at. If you want me to just do a verbal response to it, or a written response, sorry, then I will go ahead and write that out and send it back to you. The best way is to send it via private message in the forum, but I can take it via email. It's at the email you can get to me here that's shown on the webpage or on the YouTube page here. And that is pretty much it, except that I am going to give out three box gifts of the premium boxes. So the way you get that is just put down in the comments below, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, have a good weekend, depending on your religious, you know, wants and needs. I want to include everybody. Hello Guido, something like that. Give me your in-game name so I can send that to you, but I'll pick out 3 of those in there. And actually, I'll throw one other thing on there. If you've got a link or something that's going to make me laugh, go ahead and put it in there. A picture, a GIF, a link, something. No adult stuff, please. I'll just delete it if that shows up. But either, hey, happy holidays, or something to make me laugh. In any event, I'll send out those 3 things, and that is all I got. I'm going to kick this thing out. It is almost 8 o'clock already, so happy holidays, guys, and we will see you.